Want to say welcome everybody to our community gathering this Saturday morning, 9 a.m. here on the West Coast. Could be noon, Tim, on the East Coast for some people. We just want to thank you for joining us. And if you guys can turn your cameras on, that would be absolutely amazing. We would love to see all of your beautiful, handsome faces. If you cannot for some reason, that is okay. But we would love to see you guys if you can turn your cameras on. And Tim, I just want to ask everybody if they can put in the chat where they are tuning in live from this morning. Definitely would like to know where you guys are tuning in live from this morning. I'm in Southern California. Tim's in Southern California. Our team is in Southern California, and we're excited to be with you all this morning, Tim.
So I want to just start by just reading something because people are coming in already. I wrote this down. Tragedy may shake us, but unity can steady us. And it says, our country experienced the heartbreaking tragedy with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, a husband, father of two, a man taken from us over political views. Many of us are feeling unsteady in these times. And, you know, the feelings that people usually get when something like this happens, I was going all the way back to even when President Reagan was shot. You go back to when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, Martin Luther King, is obviously grief and sadness. That's a sense of mourning, anger and rage. I'm hearing this from a lot of my friends and even from their children, because I'm called Uncle Tim to a lot of my friends' kids, and they're feeling strong anger and don't even know where to point that anger. The third thing that a lot of people feel is shock and disbelief. Many people feel stunned by obviously by this event, finding it hard to believe. But then what do they do with these feelings? Another thing is it's big is fear and anxiety. That fear of what this assassination means for political discourse, safety at public events, the escalation of more violence. And so we need to talk, we need to discuss. And so my first guest that I want to bring on is a friend of mine for many, many years. He's the lead pastor of Influence Church and senior director of the best way I know to say it is TPUSA Faith, and the author of a new book, Pagan Threat, that is already climbing high in the charts on all books being sold. And interestingly enough, the forward is by the late Charlie Kirk. So, Lucas Miles, let's chat. Where were you when you found out that your friend had been shot?
We were actually out of the country. First off, Tim, it's good to be with you and your community here, and you've been a dear friend for a long time. And I appreciate your willingness to always dive into tough conversations, especially those that affect the heart. And this is certainly one of those times. And so thank you just for being a light in that arena. My wife and I were actually with another couple, a friend of ours, on vacation down in Aruba. I've been pushing really hard. For the last year and a half, I've been overseeing all of the faith operations for Charlie Kirk. Charlie it was a dear friend, a brother in Christ, just an amazing man that I had the opportunity to spend a great deal of time with. And even though he was 15 years younger than me, he became a mentor in many areas of life for me with the things that he was able to show and relate to me. Just a brilliant mind. I was down in Aruba. I was actually sitting by the pool, and everything felt perfect. And my phone rang, and it was my assistant. And I knew as soon as I saw his name that he would not call me unless there was something major going on. But I nowhere in my wildest imagination could I expect this. He told me that Charlie had been shot, that it was still too early to know, but that it was bad. And so that sent us immediately into, engagement, and couldn't get a flight out until the next day, but rushed back home and have just been in the mix ever since.
Help us out with something because I've known of him for many, many years. He was on my radar for probably 10 years. as a young guy when he first started out, as being a person that was almost like an evangelist, but yet he was doing things that a lot of us don't even have the skill set to do, and that was to have open debates with people and dialogue with folks. But some saw that also as controversial. Um, Tell me about the side of Charlie that maybe some of us do not know, a sensitive side, a comedic side.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously most people know Charlie from what we call the Prove Me Wrong tours, where he would go out to campus, which is what he was doing. At the moment he was shot, he died and really was martyred, in my opinion, doing what he loved and what he felt like he was called to do by the Lord. Charlie got a reputation, I think, of, people knew him about the debates and the arguing, and he was certainly good at dialogue. And it's hard to win a conversation with Charlie Kirk. But I think understanding why he did those things is really important. Charlie loved people. He didn't hate anybody. Even in private, I've never heard him say, a bad word about an individual. He was opposed to ideologies that he saw robbing people of the life that God intended for them or intended for this nation or those around them. And he saw and understood these ideologies so well, and was on a mission to really help draw people back to values such as faith, family, freedom, things that this nation was really built upon, and in such a way to help them. He wanted to see a better world for his children. He was a tremendous father, tremendous husband to his wife Erica. She was on national news last night and just did such a fabulous job. Please keep her in your prayers. But he loved sports. He loved the Cubs. He every conversation I had with him was either about the Lord or about sports behind the scenes. He just loved that. And he was a reader, he was a learner. He was a guy in private where he didn't do all the talking. He would ask you questions and just learn, just try to get, insight and mine the rich deposits of the people around him. And he had a way of seeing the potential in people. Tim, I think that you have a very similar gift to that, of just being able to see what God's doing in somebody before they can even see it, and then positioning them in such a way and empowering them so that they can fulfill that destiny that they have. And just a tremendous man.
Well, it says a lot coming from you because I have always seen you as one of our top leaders, not just in America, but what you're doing in the world. Your new book, Pagan Threat, Krista, if you could put that in the chat, Pagan Threat, forwarded by Charlie Kirk. Just give me about 2 minutes of what this book is about.
Yeah, the book was actually scheduled to release Monday, and it's still releasing. But obviously, this is not the conditions that I was hoping to be, talking about it. It's published by Newsmax. This book is really showing the progression that has taken place in our nation, as progressivism and wokeism and Marxism, I think, has come to seed, and that has shown its true colors as I think pagan in many ways. And look, I don't I assume on a call this big that there's probably some different viewpoints about different things, and one of the things that Charlie always loved was open dialogue and allowing people to share their perspectives even when they disagreed. And I think that was the thing that he was killed, doing and supporting. He wanted to give people a platform to share their views. I hold to a biblical worldview, and as a pastor for over 20 years now, I believe that the Bible is the Word of God, and that it is the roadmap, for our lives. It's inspired. We have seen, over the last decade or so, this rise in what is known as progressive Christianity, which is really a combination or of a hybridization of Marxist ideology and Christian thinking. It goes by different names: liberation theology, woke Christianity, etc. But it's antithetical to the gospel in a lot of ways. Jesus came in grace and truth. We never have to sacrifice love in order to speak truth. But we should not sacrifice truth in order to love. We have to have both of those things fully in place. And that's something that Charlie understood. If you open up TikTok right now and you get on TikTok Live, you're going to see young kids, doing tarot cards, horoscopes, participating in occultic practices. You're going to see people worshiping, Odin and Thor, deities that people hadn't talked about for 100 years. People participating in witchcraft. This is massively on the rise, and as we saw with this shooting with Charlie, this younger generation has experienced a massive amount of trauma, and they're not doing all right all the time. They need help, they need support, they need people to help point them back north to center. One of my friends said about Charlie here this week is that Charlie didn't lean left or right, he just pointed up. And I think that's really the message, of this. And so this book, I put it out to try to help point back up, point to, I think find our source in Christ and help the church navigate this difficult time where a lot of young people are being pulled astray in these divergent ideologies, and help us come back to really Jesus at the center.
Thank you. And Lucas, thanks for being you. And you're a real leader. I love your honesty, and we have great conversations over all these years. And if you could stay on, I think you're going to find this conversation very interesting. Lucas Miles, make sure and follow him. Next up is Paul Lambert. He started marketing when he was in his early 20s, graduate of Moody Bible Institute, and he's just an amazing guy. Now finds himself developing and producing global stage musicals. What are some of your thoughts this morning?
Well, my thoughts are that thank you, Tim, for holding gatherings like this. One of the phrases that I like to think of when I think of Tim and refer to Tim, he's like a man for all seasons. And Tim has been through many countries, many cultures, has seen many topics. And, in this day and age where social media is now governing the mindsets of so many people, one of your gifts, Tim, is I think you're a communication surgeon. And in all of this, you have to be a surgeon of communications in order to even, first of all, hear what's going on, because I think the facts of what happened are what they are. Now the rest of us, and I'm in show business, so the rest of us are dealing with those around us and how they're reacting to all of this. And I think that in my case, the intensity and the high level of anger, as you pointed out, is all around. And you have a new theme that I know you're starting to promote, which is lead with love. And there couldn't be a better time. I'd like to throw it back to you a little bit. When you say lead with love at this particular time, what do you mean by that?
I think that in the times of Christ, that there was a lot of what we deal with today, division, fractions, and everything that he knew about humankind is that if you lead with love, you can bring change. Because the enemy can counterfeit a lot of things. He can counterfeit miracles, he can counterfeit success, but he cannot counterfeit love.
Right.
That's why Jesus even said that they will know that you are my disciples because you have love one for another. And as Lucas Miles was saying, there are diversities in opinions and thoughts. But if we lead with love and we're open to be different and be unique and lead with love, love is something that does bring everlasting change.
Well, in my interaction in the last few days with a lot of artists who are calling me and texting me and wanting an audience, with me, I think of Jesus who went to the woman at the well. And I usually start the conversation with, so how are you doing? What's up? And I let them talk first because, there's one thing about talking and there's another thing about attacking. And we're seeing a lot of attacking right now. And when you're attacking, there's not much that's going to be accomplished. So I just feel that watching your skill set, Tim, watching your podcast over these next 2 or 3 weeks is going to be very important because you're very good at keeping things steady and keeping the truth and dialogue flowing that all of us are looking to grasp onto and hear. In my personal case, there may be things this gentleman said that I agree with. There may be things I don't agree with, but the point is, he was a very skilled communicator. And I think we have a lot of unskilled communicators now reacting, and it's just hyperventilating. And the one thing that I like to think about is thank goodness God is big enough for this moment. God is aware of this moment. And those of us that have an assignment from God can dare to expect certain things from God right now. We can expect his wisdom. We can expect his favor. We can expect certain amount of solutions that are in my universe with certain people that I'm dealing with. So I think we have the right to dare to expect, not because we're arrogant, but because we're in alignment.
I love it. Paul Lambert. The word unsteady, and then I'm going to go to you, Joseph, means not firm, not stable, not consistent. It describes something as being physically shaky, emotionally unstable, irregular in pattern. Man, when we were kids, we didn't know that this world was unstable like this. Maybe we saw our families as unstable, our relatives as unstable. But I remember as a child, we had a picture of the president of the United States in our house. And that was just like stability, the American flag, stability. So I do believe we can be steady in unsteady times. And this is one reason that we're having this discussion. So, Joseph, what two guests can I bring up next?
So we can go to Topher Jackson, Tim, who is ready, or Nick Lowry, whichever you prefer. I have both ready.
Go to Topher first, and then we go to Nick Lowry.
And Topher, you should be good. You should be unmuted already. And thank you for being with us.
Topher comes on. Let me just say a little bit who he is: an Air Force veteran hailing from Mississippi. And he is on TikTok, and he's got a big social media following. Friend of Charlie Kirk, and had a great discussion with him just even yesterday.
Hey Tim, how you doing? Just want to thank you for the opportunity to come speak today, and everybody that's here in honor of what's going on. And I'm glad to see the conversations continue, and that's what we need more of, not less.
Okay, so what this is, I've been doing these for years, Topher, and you're just getting to know me. Is that during the pandemic, I did them for about 2 years, and I'd have some of the biggest entertainers in the world, greatest NFL players, NBA players, thought leaders, ministers, and we'll take this group, and then we will put a lot of money, put it on Facebook, and we will have probably over 150, 200,000 views just on this alone. Okay. So, question to you. So, with this situation that just happened with your friend passing, where were you when you found out, and what was your reaction?
Well, Tim, I was sitting in my basement. I was preparing to leave. I was getting ready for a first time experience at NASCAR. Marine veteran Josh White invited me out to Bristol, Tennessee. And I was on my way, and next thing you know, my phone just started blowing up from just odd people. That was like, "Is your friend Charlie okay? And how are you? I'm like, huh? You know, and then next thing you know, I get a call, and I pick up the phone, and they said, Charlie has been shot. So the first thing I go to is check Twitter, because typically that's where a lot of the information goes out first. It breaks. I went there and saw the video, and I didn't know, I didn't know what to say or do. I was hurt because this is the tour we were supposed to be on. Like I tour when he goes to college campuses. I understand what it means to engage in these places, but to see a man that it was the best of any of us, seriously, like this is all people have to say about him is what they take out of context. They cannot talk about a scandal. They can't talk about financial issues. They can't talk about anything else except for some words that they disagreed with. And to me, that tells us the life that he lived. Like, and I'm glad to know him as a friend. And I just hope that we can, pick up the mic and continue doing exactly what at least pick it up where he left off. Yeah.
When you heard some of the things that Lucas Miles said, very similar to what you're saying, of just a good guy. Okay. So, as a black man, so many times when people see a leader that comes from a different background or race, okay, it'd be easy to say that he is typically this way. But I have seen that there was a lot of diversity in him, that he even liked dancing. He liked certain music that we were raised on. And so give us a vantage point into that part of his life, because most of us are learning or have known about the other side of his life as this leader, spiritual leader, going on campus, changing lives. But give me a personal side of him, maybe a personal story between you and him.
Yeah, so I just want to put this out there. If Charlie is a racist, I'm okay with that racism. If that what you consider to be racist, that's fine by me, because this guy did more for trying to assist the black community to divorce from the government than anybody that I knew personally. Seriously, like, not only did he talk, but he walked the walk. He put money into Blexit, which Blexit is the biggest grassroots conservative movement in the United States, and it was non-political. He wasn't doing it to sway us to vote for a certain party. He was like, I want to see your communities do better. Not many people can say it or do that. And historically, there's never been a racist who ever wanted to uplift the black community. Matter of fact, they was doing the opposite. So when people say certain things, I just look at them sideways. Do you not, either you just refuse to accept the truth and you've already made up your mind, or you just the embodiment of evil? Because I post the videos, and I don't post the videos to get views right now. I know everybody's looking for anything to cling to Charlie, but I'm posting the videos because I really want people to see and peer into my perspective and my interactions with Charlie. And every time I bumped into Charlie, it was a smile, a handshake. I love you. You're doing an incredible job.
Yeah. Topher has followers on social media. How do we follow you on Instagram? Can you tell us?
Yes, it's Topher Town Music on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Topher, I look forward to getting to know you more. I love your energy. I love your face. Your face is radiant.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Tim.
The Bible says those who look to God, their faces will be radiant. You are, I mean that. Thanks for being stay on, because I enjoyed this discussion. Joseph, let's go to Nick Childs next. Or are we going to, sorry, Nick Lowry?
I'm here.
There he is. Thank you for being on, Nick.
Talking to Nick Lowry this morning too, because Nick and I are seasoned citizens. We've been around more than 45 years, and discussion today. So as you hear Topher and Lucas Miles and your friend Paul Lambert, what's going through your mind about what the state of America is and what we just went through last week?
I am hit, first of all, Topher, God bless you, and Paul and everyone, and Tim and Joseph, because everyone on this call is a storyteller, is an influencer, is someone that has a God-given gift to inspire other people with the right choice. We think about the conversations we had with our mother and father during tough times. Even when my mother was 86, I wanted her opinion. And I'm thinking of the parallel, Tim.
Yes.
As the Kansas City Chiefs play the Philadelphia Eagles, who beat them in the Super Bowl. They're playing this weekend, and they're going to battle it out. They're going to have bruises and injuries and violent collisions. But at the end of the game, watch, they will hug each other. They will be equals because they agreed to a set of rules consistently applied.
I love what you're saying. So this is Nick Lowry. For those who are not familiar with his career, known as the greatest field goal kicker in the history of the NFL, Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame. But the beautiful thing about Nick also is he works with indigenous people, American Indian tribes for many, many years. What you're doing for the homeless, what you're doing for so many other people who I would consider the underdogs. Uh, Nick, just amazing. Let's go to Brent Bolthouse, Joseph.
We got Brent and we got your good friend Aubrey Marcus. They're both on and unmuted, Tim.
I'm going to go to Brent first. What were some of your initial thoughts when you found out what happened um, just the other day with this the shooting of Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, it was really sad because I think what I love, I didn't know Charlie personally, but um what I did see was somebody that gave everybody a seat at the table, regardless of what you believed or what you thought, and he let your voice be heard. So if you had an opinion that he didn't agree with, he didn't say, "You're not talking, you don't get a platform. I don't like that point of view. Your point of view might sway some my followers to your point of view." He was like, "No, let's have a conversation." And that really, really hit, I was just like, it's so sad that that is not okay in this day and age, right? To have a conversation. And then it made me have this deep dive in my morning meditations of like the people that sort of aren't empathizing with this situation, like they are so hurt and they're so angry and there's something so broken there that mechanism, that human mechanism of compassion or empathy is just severed. And
Yes.
how did we get here? And that severing of that part of the nervous system, right? Because there's something I've learned over the last year and being in love and in a relationship was like, how can I attune to my partner's nervous system?
Mhm.
How can you attune to somebody you disagree with, their point of view? Can you attune to their nervous system? What got them to where they were? You know? And if you can at least, if both sides can have a little more empathy, I think, it can be a better world. But we all got here together, right? There's no one innocent in this scenario. The world that we live in, the human race has been on a weird trajectory for quite some time. Everyone on the planet, and how we we have to start making little shifts. And like I saw that with Charlie of like re-engaging young people to go, it's off your phone, in person, not in the virtual world. Let's have a conversation, human to human, is still so, so important. Me and you, Tim, we don't see eye to eye on every philosophy in Christianity. I have my opinions and my views of Christians don't know their own history, but we don't, we're not fighting each other. We're having dinner
Isn't
afterwards.
true? Like sometimes Brent will, and me and Brent have been best of friends for about 40 years now. You'll come up with something and I'll say, I have to think about that one because it's outside of my seminary upbringing, but yet we are there for each other. Like we're real brothers. Just to say this, if I can for a minute. So Brent Bolthouse, for those that do not know, in the area of what would be considered the nightlife is known as the GOAT. Whether I go to Sweden or Marbella, Spain, his name is known for what he's done with nightlife in the 80s, 90s, into the 2000s. Now in the restaurant business, owner of what's called the Bungalow Restaurants, famously involved in the SLS hotels and many other things that Brent is doing. But Brent is a reader. You're the guy that turned me on to Gabriel, is it Mate, or how do you say his last name?
Gabriel Mate.
Mate. And
Maybe I'm saying it wrong.
but no, but
Yes, he's incredible.
you connected me to so many people, including Aubrey. Aubrey, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. So when you hear Brent talk, what's on your mind? What are you thinking? Thank you for letting us come to your ranch. You had an event for your friend Bobby Kennedy, and it was a privilege to speak at that. And I love who you are and what you're doing. You're more than a thought leader. You're leading people in so many ways to live healthier lives, better lives, stronger lives. What's going through your mind on this conversation?
Yeah, this is a really potent moment for us as a society and for us as a nation and for us as a world. And I think the question about whether Charlie Kirk was a perfect being is missing the point of the question. There are no perfect beings that are walking the earth. And there's a lot of premises that Charlie had that I disagreed with. But one thing about Charlie is I had confidence, I never met him, that if I came with my opinions, we would debate them. And at the end, we would shake hands. And the reason we would shake hands is that both of us, and so many of us here, have an undeniable gnosis that God is real.
Yeah.
And when you know that God is real, you know that value is real, and then you know that you're all children of God. And so you may disagree with certain aspects. I think, there's in the lineage of Solomon, so I have a Hebrew lineage that goes through me. There's a great passage. It's written by Abraham Cook in the late 1890s, and he talks about the Song of Songs, and this is about becoming whole. And the first song is to recognize a love for yourself and a love for who you are as an individual. And I think that's where so much hate comes from. It comes from a self-hate that's projected outward. So finding that kind of love and peace within yourself, and then it extends to your family or your tribe. And I think this is potentially one of the areas where, even though Charlie was reaching out to other tribes, which I truly commend him for, and like Nick was saying, it's different when you do it in person. And that's what I loved about him. He wasn't just behind his Twitter screen, his X screen, making comments. Yeah, he was doing that, but he was out there meeting people, and he was out there actually allowing people to come and challenge his beliefs. So while he had a tribal identity, which is the second level, the second song, he was still making outreach to other people. And that's the third song. The third song is the recognition of our shared humanity. So you sing the song of the self, the song of your tribe, the song of humanity, and then you sing the song of all life. So all of the animal kingdoms, the plant kingdoms, the rock nations, many of the indigenous beliefs that we've forgotten. Aho metakuye yasin. We are all related. This is the primary Lakota saying before every ceremony. It's a recognition of how we are related. And then when you sing all of those songs together, knowing that at that point you're singing the melody and the hymn of God that knows that we're all part of God's creation. And, I think that all of us have to move from starting with that love for the self, moving into, yes, of course, we're going to love our tribe and our people and our family, our ohana, as they say in Hawaii. But we have to also love all of humanity. Then we also have to love all of life. We're in a crazy time, in a crazy world. A new race of beings could come from the stars and introduce themselves. Are we going to say, okay, you're our enemy? Or are we going to say, okay, well, let's get to know you first. Let's have a conversation before we point our ballistic missiles up there, because you're something other. And that impulse to actually eradicate the other is strong within humanity. And it's something we need to transcend. It's something that was deeply embedded in the core of Yeshua's teachings, was that willingness to forgive and love, and also to share the truth of our shared humanity, to share the truth as he saw it of right and wrong. And so I think, if we want to take something from this, we take that no matter how strongly we are identified with the tribe, let's have those conversations. And the last thing I'll say is, one of the charities that I've supported for a long time, not recently, I don't even know if it's still going because of the chaos that's happening in the Middle East, but it was called Seeds of Peace. And Seeds of Peace would bring, Israeli teens and Palestinian teens together. And they would bring them together in a kind of little retreat center. And they would start sitting on different sides of the lunchroom, kind of sticking to themselves, but slowly, they'd introduce the soccer ball. And then people would start playing soccer, and they'd introduce something else, very much like that famous soccer match that happened in World War, where the Germans and the U.S. forces, they brought a soccer ball out on Christmas Eve and started playing soccer. That is ultimately subversive to this war mentality. It's how do you build a bridge? How do you sit eye to eye, heart to heart, and recognize whoever is near you, wherever they came from, whatever color skin they have, they're a fellow child of God. And if we take, the best of what Charlie stood for, I think it's that. It's not necessarily all the premises that he believed, but it's his willingness to actually be there person to person and have those conversations. And if there's a way forward, it's to do a lot more of that.
I love what you're saying because, Aubrey, as you know, us are in the healing space, and we're all working through faults, failures. So I'm loving how you are saying this. Let's look at the best that he brought. The fact that he was only 31 years of age, he was still emerging, still unfolding. I mean, look how much both of us have grown even in the last 10 years. Aubrey, for us to follow you would be what?
Yeah, I have a podcast, Aubrey Marcus Podcast, or my Instagram at Aubrey Marcus. Got a new book coming out next year called You versus Anti-You, which is working with those forces of negation and resistance, the whispers of the father of lies that come into our heart, mind, and body. So keep a lookout for that next year, and just trying to do my best to stand.
You're helping
Yeah.
so many people. And I love it because it came to your ranch, it was diversity. People were coming from all walks of life. I'm going to ask your friend Brent Bolthouse one last question. Brent, how do we move forward in this? Because, Stevie Wonder had this song that I used to love, Love's in Need of Love Today. Don't yours in right away. Give us one step forward on how to make this place a better place.
I mean, I think if everyone, because I think there's a lot of people that are sensible and down the middle, and they're not. There's no extreme in where they sit, but and then you have the extreme on the left and the extreme on the right. Like those extreme people, if they could just take an inch closer to somebody that they disagree with, and maybe figure out a place, on Friday after work, I'm gonna go take that guy from work that is Republican and I'm a Democrat, and I'm just gonna go listen to him. I'm gonna take a deep breath and I'm gonna just try that and see, rub my heart and see and just hear where they're having and look for the similarities and just take a practice of listening and take a practice of communicating and then have a practice of like, when we leave, we're going to hug and know that we're all children of God, like Aubrey said, like if we could encourage anyone that's extreme, that we all know extreme people, because I don't think anyone on this call is super extreme either way, and encourage them, like, let's do that, in Charlie's memory, and there's a lot of people on both sides that are super extreme, and that's where this lives. And the extremes can be wounded from whatever their trauma is from their past and how we get here and what happens. We all have our own history, right? Because God knows I've got mine and I know yours, and we all deal with stuff. But I think, like I said, if we can take micro steps towards trying something that's uncomfortable, right? There's a thing that I learned this last year that was so powerful for me in relationship. And it's this cycle of harmony, disharmony, and repair that this guy, Terry Real, talks about. And basically the study goes, at birth, baby's latched, everything's great. Oh, latch is bad. Milk is not flowing. Baby gets uncomfortable. Mama gets uncomfortable. There's anxiety and there's tension. Oh, and then the baby latches, and then there's the repair.
Yes.
And that is the cycle of relationship that starts at birth for all of us. And I think we all kind of forget that in relationships, if it's romantic, if it's business, if it's friends, there is a cycle of harmony, disharmony, and repair. And the repair piece is the most important piece, because if you can't repair, then there's not much hope, right? So instead of turning away from something that makes you uncomfortable, you disagree, turn towards and think about that person's nervous system, because they have a nervous system just like you. It ain't no different when we get into the biology of the nervous system in each of us.
Wonderful.
It's the same nervous system.
All right. How do we follow you, Brent, on social media?
Just Brent Bolthouse. Instagram is really, I'm on Twitter too, I guess, but I'm not much on it. And that's it. That's where I'm at.
I love you both. Thank you,
Love
Aubrey.
you.
Thank you, Brent. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Let's go to David Gallad. So David Gallad is an amazing manager. He's an entrepreneur. He knows how to build brands. He's helping me build our brand called Lead with Love. And I want to see what David's thinking about this conversation so far. If you could unmute yourself, please.
It's interesting because I came across Charlie because I have a 25-year-old daughter, and that generation, something I think all of us on this call have to keep in mind about really the children, and how the children are being affected. That generation, he really resonated with college students and people that are younger than us. When I'm listening to everybody talk, and especially when you use the words unsteady, we are in unsteady times, but history shows from the Bible to the past that these are the times when you're unsteady, that greatness is really born. And, I was thinking about it and listening to him talk about the Chicago Cubs, and greatness is always born from tragedy if you do something about it. I remember when Michael Jordan, his father was murdered, and as a Chicago Bull, I have to use that as an example, he went and took his team to the championship. He didn't sit and put his head in the sand. He rose above and became great. When Brett Favre's dad died 2 hours before a Monday night football game, he went out and threw 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So what I would say is, right now we're in chaos. Headlines are in chaos. People are looking for negative things to say about everybody. You can show a clip when you speak that much on TikTok. We as a community have an opportunity to rise above it, create some greatness. What I think Brent said something really beautifully. If everybody in this gathering was to do a small act of kindness, some love, and sow peace rather than sow chaos, and not look for negative, but look for positive, and not sit in a setback, but rise above and get ready for some greatness. And I think we have a moment of history right now where we can actually really do something.
Wonderful. And David, thank you for helping us to put this together. And thank you for helping me with this Lead with Love movement that we have, that we are leading with love in seminars and masterminds and events and everything that we're doing. Joseph, is Heather Monahan around?
She is, Tim. I was going to ask if we can go to Darren Prince real quick. Darren has to jump off shortly, Tim, and he's on and he is ready to go.
Then we'll go to Heather. Then we'll go to Mason Kane.
Darren, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go.
Darren, as you're coming on, let me just say, Darren Prince is an entrepreneur. He is a person that is a key figure to so many people's lives, working with the likes of Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Dominic Wilkins, David Goggins, Tim Storey, and just an amazing man. We were just at an event that he took me to for Mike Tyson, and I surely love you, Darren. Darren, I'm going to ask you this way. What's going through your mind?
It's just a crazy time. I mean, we couldn't even process what happened to the Ukraine woman. And then this happens, and then we're getting ready for the 9/11 memorial. I mean, it's just a scary time of disconnect and two polar opposites. There's no in between, it seems like, when something like this happens.
So, Darren, when we look at these words that I was studying the last few days, what people have been feeling since he was assassinated: grief and sadness, anger and rage, shock and disbelief. What is something that went through your mind? you've brought a lot of people through hardship because you're like me, recovery space, you know,
Yep.
our friends' lives, right? But
Yep.
what went through your spirit, through your emotions, the grief, sadness, anger, rage, shock, disbelief, what was going through your spirit?
It immediately goes to the family of sadness, heartache, trauma. His poor kids at a certain point, there's going to be this footage online. Yeah, sure, the impact and the legacy. I think what David just said, it's certainly going to be there times a million with some of the impactful messages and debates and the way he kind of handled things, especially with the younger generation. I watched quite a few podcasts on him. I didn't know a lot about him, and he had a unique way of dealing with them because let's face it, this young culture is completely off. I mean, it's just like something I've never seen before. But Tim, I also had the blessing, about my career of working with Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier for 16 years. And I did an interview yesterday and it really got me choked up because one of my great blessings in business, my biggest blessing in life is being sober 17 years and now being able to help people. But back in 2002, I was able to get those two kings together to make peace. And their whole message around NBA All-Star Weekend was, if we can make peace, why can't the rest of the world? We had a dinner the night before, they hugged, they embraced. And this reporter asked me, because the 50th anniversary of their iconic Thrilla Manila fight is coming up on October 1st, said, what would they think? And I actually got choked up because it was something I never thought about. And I cannot even imagine what would be going on. I remember when 9/11 happened, Smoke and Joe couldn't sleep for 3 days. I had to call Governor Pataki's office, and they had to actually open up the Lincoln Tunnel so Joe could spend 15 hours with me and my late father, visiting all the firehouses, going to the pier to bring food, water, everything to the first responders. I mean, it's insane what's going on right now. I mean, it's just whatever happened to just talking and understanding. And I think what Brent said has so much to do with it. You and I, understand mental health better than almost anybody. There's just such an unresolved trauma. There's behavioral patterns. There's thought processes that are instilled in them in their community from their families. From, it could be an uncle, father, mother, older sister, brother, and something's got to change.
I want one step that you could help us with. Your friend just passed, Hulk Hogan. You helped manage him. You were close to him. I knew Hulk through Dog the Bounty Hunter. That was my initial connection.
No.
You connected me and Terry, also known as Hulk Hogan, together. What do you do with these waves of grief and sadness that hit? Because for both of us, understanding addiction and understanding the mental health side, and you were talking about it's Mental Health Awareness Month, is give me one thing that we can do as a community, as people, when these waves of sadness are hitting us.
I mean, I've gone it 13 months. Jerry West was a dear friend and client. My mother passed away last November. Terry Bollea, aka Hulk Hogan, I wasn't just his agent. It was a dear friend for 24 years. A God first, God loving, incredible human being, big supporter of my mission. For me, I choose to serve. I choose to stay in a place of service and kindness and help others, because I believe as humans, we're not responsible for our thoughts, but we are responsible for how long we want to think those thoughts. And the easiest way to get out of our own head and our 2 ears is to serve other people that are struggling, suffering, need a helping hand, a voice, whatever it might be.
Darren Prince, thank you for being you. In my book, you're first, but you're comfortable playing second. I see you, you're behind stage when David Goggins is out there and he's one of your clients and you're just rooting him on. When I'm on stage, you're rooting me on. You're rooting on Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, whoever you're working with. Thank you for being you, and I love you. Really love you.
I love you too, and Joseph too. Love you, my brother. Thank you.
Love
This
you,
is
Darren.
beautiful.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys, and amazing that you all put this together. What a blessing.
Yes, and the beautiful thing is to tell everybody this is going to go out to several 100,000 people. We're going to put it on Facebook. We boost it. We'll get some of you guys to sponsor it so we could help change more people's lives. It's going to be a beautiful thing. Thank you, Darren. Joseph,
Thank you.
Who's next?
Heather, and Heather is ready to go. Tim, she's unmuted whenever you're ready.
You give her just a little bit of an intro, because, and as he's about to give official, Heather is a great friend of mine, and she is an entrepreneur. She is a phenomenal mother. She's a great mother to her son. She is a Christian. She has become one of the best speakers in the world. And she's been voted as one of the best speakers in the world, and she is. And she was just recently in Dubai. She might be there right now, but I know she was just there. But Joseph, what else you got on that page?
She's a top 50 keynote speaker, which you just said, Tim. She's a two-time best-selling author. She's a podcast host of Creating Confidence. She's a board member and founder of Boss in Hills. And we have Heather Monahan with us this morning. Heather, thank you for being with us, Heather.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you so much for having me. Tim, love you. Thank you for putting this together. I'm so grateful. And I'm back from Dubai, but I was actually, when Charlie was shot, I was in Dubai. I'm new to the Middle East. I live in Miami, Florida. I'm American. And I was very scared when I started getting invited over to the Middle East to speak. And I wanted to use that as an example that, fear is at the basis of so much of anger, of upset. And what I'm learning later in life is challenging myself to step into fear and to go into these situations. I was petrified the first time I went to Saudi Arabia, petrified the second time I went. I was scared this time going to Dubai with everything happening in the Middle East. But what I keep finding is people everywhere are so much more alike than they are different. People are so kind and full of love and want connection, and not the way media or social media or algorithms or news outlets make you want to think they are. We need to see these people for ourselves, whoever they may be. And so one of the things I learned, my past life was in media and traditional media, television and radio. And the way those companies make money is by getting hooks and catfish, and the more eyeballs, the better, even if it's not entirely the whole story. If it's exciting and it gets people to watch, that's what they're going to move forward with. Social media is the exact same way. Everybody's fighting for eyeballs, and it's not always done in a way where they're leading with love. They're leading, trying to drive stock prices. And the more we think about that, the more we need to challenge ourselves to say, we're smarter than that. We can do the homework. And I know earlier someone was talking about not really knowing Charlie. I didn't really know him either. But the thing is, even when we do some research, we might not be seeing the whole story. So I really want to challenge everyone to go the extra mile before we pass judgment on someone. If we haven't really met them in real life, we can't claim to know what they stand for when we're only seeing clips. And today, sometimes those clips are AI. My son has been teaching me that a lot lately. You think you're seeing a video of someone, it's not even them. So this experience that I had just this last week in Dubai was incredible. And the people were so kind and so welcoming and so good to me. And it really took me back to, I used to have an image of what the Middle East was like, and how they must hate Americans and how it would be horrible for an American to be there. And I want you to know that was not wrong and that was not true. And it wasn't based in fact. And the more we lead with this idea of curiosity and understanding and forgiveness and love, we begin to see those people are everywhere. And as much as it's hard to even think about it, this young man that took somebody else's life is someone's child. And it's heartbreaking to see that so many kids are isolated because of social media. So many kids are isolated now even more than ever because of AI, and they're suffering from mental illness. And I encourage everyone to be on your kids' feeds. My child he's unbelievable Christian, huge fan of Tim's. He reads the Bible every day, but I still always ask to show me what the feeds are showing you these days, because sometimes it's extremely conservative and we like to talk through, what does that mean? And how polarizing is that? So again, I'm not saying that there is one way that's right and one way that's wrong, but instead, if something's triggering us, it's probably something we don't really like within ourselves, and we're seeing it mirrored in somebody else. So instead, let's start with forgiveness for ourselves, grace for ourselves, forgiveness and grace for others. And the more that we can lead like that, the more communication we can all have. And then the more, hopefully, fear starts dissipating.
I love this. Okay, so how can we watch your podcast? Your podcast is doing fantastic. Best way to watch it, and we'll put it in the chat, it would be how?
At Creating Confidence with Heather Monahan. Of course, Tim Storey's been on the show many times. We're everywhere: Spotify, Apple, iTunes, on every platform.
Okay, Heather, I appreciate you. And last tidbit of advice, maybe just take a minute and a half to answer this. With your amazing son, he's like a wonder boy. But let's say if he was not such a wonder boy, what can we do to help our children work through this? Because I have been getting calls this week from parents to say, what should I say to my children? How much should I say to them? One of them was asking, what should they say to the 6-year-old son? Because he was really asking, was very afraid. He said, if I leave the house, could I get shot too? Just give me a little tidbit of what we could possibly say to our children.
I believe that when you feel over your skis and you're being asked questions by anybody that you don't have the answer for, ask for help. First, pray, turn to your church, your pastor. If you don't have those people, ask for help. Ask your friends ask people that you know are good people in your life for help. You are not alone. This is an amazing community Tim has created. You're meeting people and speaking to people in the chat thread. Ask other people for their perspective, their ideas. You don't have to solve it alone. Children are raised by communities, not by just one individual or parent. And that's a beautiful thing. That's where relationship comes from. Admitting to your child you don't have all the answers sometimes is a really powerful thing to do. I'm far from perfect, and I don't expect you to be perfect either. And I don't think I have the perfect answer for you right now, but together we can work through this. We've been through hard things before, and we can work through this one too. Let's take the steps that we know we need to take together, and let's start to be the change that we want to see in others by communicating, leading with love, leading with forgiveness, and surrounding ourselves with other people that we know want to do those same good things. And let's figure that answer out together.
Wonderful. Keep following Heather Monahan. Thank you, Heather. All right.
Hey, Tim, can I mention that Heather was also just on your podcast? So if people want to hear more from Heather, you guys did a great podcast episode on your podcast, The Miracle Mentality with Tim Storey.
Really loved interviewing her. How can people watch that, David?
They can go to any platform they want. It's The Miracle Mentality with Tim Storey. It's also not just an audio one, but a visual one also. So they can go to your YouTube channel. Just go to Tim Storey's YouTube, subscribe, and you can watch the interview. It's a fantastic podcast episode. I appreciate you very much, Heather.
Because I'm with her, but also just some of the wisdom that's pouring out of her. Because I think that Heather's always been in the forefront, but it's almost like she's been marinating with God, and just amazing things are coming from her spirit. I want to read just 2 scriptures. Psalms 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he saves those who are crushed in spirit. Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. Okay? All right, Joseph, who's next?
Tim, we got the last 3 guests. You got Bijou, Mason Kane, and then we have Sergio Della Mora for last, Tim. They're all on and ready to go.
Go to Mason, my good friend. I just talking to him the other day. Then we go to Bijou, a young leader who's just on fire, doing a lot of great things. And then we go to Sergio Della Mora, who's a pastor, leader, literally all over the world. Mason, good to see you.
You too, brother. And Tim, thanks for this time, man. Just to unpacking this, and one of the messages that God put on my heart is when I first heard about Charlie, I was sitting in this seat. And I think for all of us, it progressively started to set in to a point where I started to question, why is this affecting me so deeply? Because we see tragedy quite often, right? And one of my fears is that we see tragedy so often that we become desensitized to it, right?
Yes.
This whole deal with Charlie started to set in at a level that I almost felt like was abnormal. And just curious in the chat if anybody else felt like that just comment yes. And I want to see how many of you guys, yes, yes, yes. And like the reason that I want you guys to comment that is because I want you to see that you're not abnormal in those thoughts and those feelings, right? And so one of the things that I've noticed, and just a quick thing that God kind of put on my heart to share, is we're hearing a lot about prayer, right? During times of tragedy, it's we're praying for this, and the thing that He put on my heart this morning to share with you guys is I started to realize and think about where I learned how to pray. And I learned from observation in childhood, right? Through being brought up in church, through family gatherings, brother so-and-so, can you pray over the meal? So-and-so, can you pray before we start? So-and-so, can you pray us out, right? And so my belief of prayer was I'm saying something to God.
Yes.
And for a majority of my life, because I'm a slow learner, I missed out on what I found to be the most important part of prayer, which is sitting in silence and listening, right? And so just some action steps that I hope was helpful for me, and I hope would be helpful for anybody else on this call. If you have some notes, just some questions to sit and ask God in this time, because I think that He uses these times to prick our hearts. Like everybody that said yes, and all of you guys on this call, you're feeling that right now. And I want you to consider that maybe that's a prompt to sit with God. And so here's just a couple quick questions to ask Him is, what do you want me to know?
Excellent.
Second one, what do you want me to say? Third one is, what do you want me to do? And the last one is, what's preventing me from doing that?
Wonderful.
And so, my encouragement to everybody here is that we're hands and feet, not the whole body. And so we were never designed to fight this whole war, but God's probably giving you a part in your domain and your calling. And like the best thing that we can do is stay focused on that, because I found myself being a little bit distracted of like, what do we do? Like, what do we change because of this? And like the message that I got from God is, you have a mission, you have a calling, like you need to focus on that, because you're not the whole body, you're one part. And so, Tim, thanks.
One of the top young leaders in America right now. And if you're watching YouTube at any time, you're probably going to see his commercials pop up, because he's all about helping families, marriages, husbands, wives, children, teenagers. His whole company is called Unchained Leader. And he deals with a subject that we don't often want to talk about in public, and that is people that get addicted to pornography. And he's helping mega leaders getting out of this bind, helping families, young people, and just a crusader and a frontline guy. And Mason, it's a privilege to be your friend, and it's a privilege to be shoulder to shoulder with you and to do more with you in the future. And his share was just phenomenal. That was phenomenal. That is
Thank you,
phenomenal.
Tom. Thanks for the space, brother.
Can't wait to do some of these sound bites that we'll put like all over social media. Thank you, Mason. All right, Joseph, let's go to Bijou next.
She is ready and she is unmuted, Tim.
Okay, so you guys, each share just about 3 to 4 minutes, just like you guys have been doing. All of you guys, I told you in advance, and you're staying right on step, and I appreciate that. Bijou is a young lady that is raised just by great parents, the dad and the mother. She is the oldest of 8 children, and she's a leader, and let's dialogue with her a little bit. Bijou, just tell me about some of your thoughts as you're hearing this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I think it's just so interesting hearing all the different perspectives tonight, or I should say this morning, because I had the opportunity to even work with Lucas Miles on Pagan Threat. The cover, I designed that cover with my company. I've been friends with Topher for the last couple of years as well. So I think it's just been so amazing to see the community that Charlie, his life, it's more than just a legacy of what he had as a mission, but it was also the people that he put into place. Like, it was easier for me to find people that had a like-minded community around it. So, I mean, honestly, at this time when we're talking about like unsteady times, it reminds me a lot of Esther's life. Esther in the Bible, she's this young woman who was an orphan girl, had really unfortunate circumstances, was raised by her uncle, and then she stepped up to the plate, right? And when she had to step up to the plate, there were some things that happened that she had to make a choice. She had to make a choice whether she spoke or she stayed silent. And if she stayed silent, then she was told by her uncle that if she stayed silent at such a time like this, that God would bring somebody else. God would bring somebody else to do that work that she was supposed to do, but her and her family would perish. And
Yeah.
I think that is something so important for us as we are in an unsteady time right now. I think it's important for us to take that moment and be obedient when God says step forward.
Excellent.
Be obedient and step forward when he says to step forward. And be like, I've been talking, I have several girls I started mentoring. These are Esther's. Esther's now is what I call them. And we were just talking about the power of fasting and praying. In times of great distress throughout the Bible, you see these women, these men who would put their lives on pause. So that way they could listen to God clearly and get that clarity and direction for their lives. And whether you're, a Christian or you're somebody here that's, just hearing all these stories, I think something that all of us can take away from Charlie's life is that he's spoken to people, but he was also really good at hearing the feedback from both sides of it. So I think that's one of the main things I've gotten from all this. Honestly, it shook me up a lot to hear that he passed away because within just a few minutes after he was shot, I was getting phone calls from journalists, from politicians. It was just a lot, honestly. And within minutes, I was getting tons of phone calls. I'm very connected, thankfully. But it was just a lot of people that were just saying like, hey, if you know anything, tell me, get connected. And I didn't know him extremely personally well. He did speak into two of my brother's lives though. And I've just been, working alongside of Turning Point for the last 2 years, but it was just so impactful to me to know that so many people cared about a young man who started this at 18 years old. And so many people say that, are you too young to do this? And if there's anyone that is young listening to this, I'm like, if God's put something into your life, you're not too young. So go and do what he said.
Okay, Bijou, we love what you're saying. Best way for us to follow you is?
Yeah, you can go to my Instagram, Bijou McMillian. You can also follow me on my website, esthernow.org.
Okay. I'm so proud of you. I really am. I love your parents, your family, and what you guys are all about. And I love the story of Esther. So there is a difference between when God summons people and when he makes a suggestion. For you, God has summoned you to be a leader of leaders. So we're very thankful for you. All right, so let's go to our final one just because of time. And who are we going to, Joseph?
We are going to Pastor Sergio Delamora. Tim, Serge, I just asked you to unmute yourself, and I believe you just did.
What a great conversation today. I mean, my goodness.
Wow.
Amazing. Sergio's ready, Tim.
Serge, we got about 4 minutes, and you got a smile on your hat. I don't know if you know that. Did you know you got a smiley face on your hat?
Yes, sir.
Can you unpack this thing in 4 minutes?
Yeah, sure. Tim, one of the things that you realize when stuff like this happens, when tragedy hits a country, it's a pause time. Right now, it's like a death has occurred in America. And I believe more than ever, it's a time to pause and to ask key questions. And I think one of the things that God is asking all of us to consider is the message of the man who became a martyr. Biblically speaking, as a pastor, as a community leader, as an entrepreneur, whenever God wants to multiply a message, he usually causes the messenger to leave quickly. Think about Stephen, apart from Jesus and the other contemporary leaders that were mentioned. But I want to talk about Stephen in the Bible. The church stayed in Jerusalem, but it wasn't until the death of Stephen that the church went beyond Jerusalem to Judea and to the uttermost parts of the earth. So the question I have is this: what is God saying to to people about the message that was spoken, that has been speaking through Turning Point, that the world needs to hear and be multiplied. And I think it's the messenger was killed because of his message. So if the messenger was killed because of his message, the question I think we have to all ask ourselves is, how do we multiply the message of the martyr so that more people can be impacted and reached? Because the truth is, if his message wasn't important, he wouldn't have died. And the truth is now is, what are we going to do with the message? So there are three messages that I see as a result. Number one is the message of a father who was courageous enough to turn in his son. I don't think anyone's mentioned this, but let's talk about the dad who said to his son, "You killed a good man. You need to take responsibility for that." I think the last verse of the Old Testament is really key. The Bible says, "I will send you Elijah. He will turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children, lest I smite the earth with the curse." I want to celebrate, first of all, the message of the father who said to his son, "You need to take responsibility and bear the consequences." If we're going to change America, it's going to start with fathers who will hold themselves accountable and hold their children accountable with consequence. I don't think we understand consequence. And when we teach our family there are consequences for poor choices, then we're healing the heart, but also steadying the soul of America. So fathers, keep doing your job. And kudos to the dad who said to his son, take responsibility. Number two, I think the second message is that America now wants revival.
Yeah.
What kind of revival? Spiritual revival, yes. But also, there is a moral revolution happening in our country. When a young man of 31 years old can be killed because of his message, it's because the potency of his message was to heal America, bring America back to the Christian values that it was formed from. And so I say to all of us, if we don't learn from the life of the man that we lost, the importance of living a life of value, integrity, and character, then we might be missing the greater point. And the third and final message I want to share with everyone, and this I think is important for pastors and leaders, because I'm in the pastor space. I coach hundreds of pastors and leaders, and this is one of the things I've had to mention to people. You know, I've had pastors in an uproar, and I've said, hold on. If ever there was a time for the church to raise its voice, is now. So I want to challenge every pastor to become a dangerous church again. The church, by and large, has lost its voice in culture because we've stopped addressing real, honest pain from the pulpit. So I want to encourage pastors to be dangerous. And what I mean by dangerous is to have a bold voice that is righteous and gracious. Because remember this, the voice of the church is powerful. And so what does Jesus teach us about people who hurt good people? Well, Jesus loved sinners, but he also loved Judas. And we have to learn to love both people in the world. We have to learn to love those that hate us and love those that love and need us. And if we'll live in love, and I put on my Instagram today that love is king. If we live in love, we'll love both.
Sergio, can you pray for us in Spanish?
Sí, señor.
And I'm going to give it to Joseph and David Galad for final thoughts, but pray for us in Spanish.
Padre, en el nombre de Jesucristo, te doy gracias, Señor, por esta oportunidad de hablar con mi amigo Tim Storey a familias, líderes, personas, a las naciones, cerca de la importancia de restaurar nuestro país. Sana los Estados Unidos, Señor. Transforma, Señor, los Estados Unidos. Causa que lo que sucedió con la vida de este joven, que cambie el corazón de nuestra nación y del mundo. Espíritu Santo, te damos permiso de transformar nuestra cultura. Haz tu voluntad en el nombre de Cristo Jesús. Amén y amén. Let's go.
That was one of the most powerful leaders we have in the body of Christ today. For years, his church was voted the fastest growing church in America. I just did a conference with him, Brian Houston from Hillsong, and who was our other gentleman we had there from that mega church?
From San Diego, Miles McPherson.
Miles McPherson. But Serge, you've been literally all over the world changing people. Best way to follow you, and Joseph, let's put it in the chat, would be your Instagram is under what?
Pastor Sergio DLM. That's for my last name, Delamora. Pastor Sergio DLM.
Okay, I love you, Sergio. That was very powerful. Look at my eyes. Very powerful. Okay, David Gallad, can you mute yourself? And Joseph, we're going to close this. And David, just closing thoughts. How do you feel about what just happened? We all got together, me, you, and Joseph, and we said, let's do something. And what are your final thoughts on what just happened, which was pretty beautiful?
I think it is beautiful, and I think it's really important for us not to look at this in fear, but really in faith. Hearing Sergio end it, I think if we come together, some greatness can really happen. And as you always say, you can decide to stay in your setback, or we can move forward and create a comeback. And I think that's where we're at today. I do believe our best days are ahead of us. And I think that that's important for us to educate our children that, we are in unsteady times, but we are a beautiful place. And, together we sow peace. Greatness is ahead of us.
I love it. Thank you for helping us put this together, David. Joseph, final thoughts?
Thank you, Tim. Oh, go ahead.
Everything you're doing in the back end, and Krista and Nilly and who else? Who else?
Got Brian, got the whole team on today, Tim, helping make this possible. But I just want to say thank you to you for bringing us all together. We all need community. God designed us to live in fellowship, Tim. And thank you for always having the guts and the courage to rise up, Tim, in the difficult times and bring us all together, because we are better together and we do have to lead with love, Tim. So thank you to you for making this all possible, Tim. We're all on here because of you've touched our life in some way, shape, or form. So thank you.
You are very welcome. But I think that all of us, it's almost like we don't have a choice. We got to lead.
Got to lead with love.
We got to lead, and we're going to lead with love, and we're going to change this world and make it a better place. All right. God bless you guys. You will be hearing more about this if you follow me on Tim Storey Official. Also, we'll email you some things. We're going to edit this up, and we're going to put it on Facebook. Some of you may want to help as far as becoming sponsors. We might come after a couple of you that have good companies to help us sponsor this, to get this out to probably over 150,000 people is what we'll hit. And that will be good for your company and good for people. But I appreciate you. God is with us. And we may not be what we want to be, but thank God we're not what we used to be. Life is still good. We'll see you soon.